Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. So glad that you could join us today. You know, the world of cheating has changed dramatically. 30, 40 years ago, you might have to actually go out on a date in order to, find a bit of intimacy. Now, it's right at your fingertips, simply a click away. Our guest in studio is Robert Weiss, expert in intimacy issues in the digital age. And he's here with us today as a returning guest to talk about what men and women can expect when infidelity rears its ugly head. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Robert. Glad to have you back.
Thanks. Now, I was listening to you say that, and I was saying, well, it's not going to be a good day.
You know, you're the author of a brand new book. It's just been released this month. It's called Out of the Doghouse. Talk about this book and, why did you write it and who's the audience?
Well, I wrote a book. I've been working in the field of sexual addiction, compulsive sexuality, cheating, and infidelity for almost 25 years, as you said. And, I see patterns of when, how can you help it? And the patterns that most heterosexual couples seem to try to play out when they're healing. And when infidelity is discovered, 9 times out of 10, there's fairly typical things that I will see a female spouse go through, and then I will also see a male spouse, if he's the cheater, try to fix the problem in a whole bunch of ways. And these are native. This is just what comes up for you as a human being. You want to fix something. This is what you do. You're hurting. This is what you do. But the ways that men and women treat each other in relationship when they're trying to heal it or even just make it better don't always seem to be that effective. And so I wrote a book for women to let them know that there was a guy out there who understood what they went through when they were cheated on, and also for them to understand that they have a right to heal with the full sort of responsibility taking of that man in their life, which I don't always see happen on the man's side.
So we're talking about healing, the cheated on spouse especially, but what about the healing of the cheater, getting to the root of why they cheat, whether it's impulsive or whatever, getting to the root of why they cheated in the first place? Isn't there some healing involved on the cheater's part as well?
Well, I think there's always a question of what was that about. First of all, I'm not sure that monogamy is, our natural state of being. And I'm not saying that it is. What I am saying, I think it's really important that I say that. What I am saying is that if you marry someone or you make a commitment to someone that involves monogamy, that's what means something, your word, your contract, your agreement. And so if you say to yourself, I'm going to marry this woman, for example, and I'm going to be monogamous, that's your commitment, your word, your contract, and that is what that woman expects. So if 3 years later, you're at a bachelor party and you decide to get some lap dances and go in the back and whatever happens, you have broken that agreement. If you don't tell your partner, then they assume you've kept that agreement. Now, in business, this would have a whole bunch of ramifications for a company that says one thing and does another. In marriages, it usually foretells the beginning of a whole lot of unhappiness.
Now, in the book, your brand new book, Out of the Doghouse, a step-by-step relationship saving guide for men caught cheating, you've got an entire chapter that's dedicated on how not to make the situation worse. I think it's pretty interesting. Talk about making the situation worse. Give us some specifics that we can avoid in that situation.
Well, I hope you're not in that situation, Neal. But should you end up in that situation, here's some things I would suggest you avoid. Meaning, and the question is really, how do guys screw up or really badly manage trying to heal infidelity when they are the ones who've committed it? And I see things like, I think the worst offenses are, in no particular order, blaming the spouse. Well, if you were thinner, if you had more sex with me, if you just weren't nagging me all the time, maybe I wouldn't go do this. Not a good idea. I don't think a hurting, wounded spouse is ready to take responsibility for your cheating. And if they do, you're only hurting them further because you're taking your bad actions and making them feel responsible for them, and then they hurt twice as much. I don't think that healing infidelity is about saying to a partner things like, calm down, or it wasn't that big a deal to me, or, she didn't mean anything to me, or it didn't go on for that long, or, in other words, trying to make it sound like it wasn't as bad as she thinks it is. It doesn't matter what it's bad. It's already bad, and let her think whatever she wants. But trying to give rewards and presents and gifts like you would to a child to make your wife or girlfriend feel better, like, I know I cheated on you, but here's some candy or flowers or a vacation. They may take that candy, flowers, or vacation, I would, but they're still going to hate your guts. So, it really will just cost you a bunch of money. It will not have gained or regained their trust or helped you heal the wound. I also think that men seem to assume that the relationship contract that they made with their spouse, once they've broken it, should be the same anyway. In other words, you should lovingly greet me at the door. I should lovingly greet you. We should be, you should forgive me. You should accept what I've done. You should, like, wait a minute, you broke the contract. So all bets are off. So in other words, I think trying to talk a spouse out of, could you not be so angry, or could you calm down, or here's a really bad offense. It's been at least a month since that happened. When are you going to calm down? Well, let's see. That's the word. Because let's try this. We've been married for 12 years, and you cheated for a year and a half, and I'm supposed to calm down in 3 weeks. Help me understand that, is what a spouse will say. And then the guy says, oh, my God, my wife has turned into a witch, Mm-hmm. Then there's the other side of it, right, where the guys are saying, oh, my God, my wife won't give me a break, my girlfriend won't give me a break, and all I did was this. It was not. That doesn't help either. So finding other men who will validate your victimhood, how sad it is that your spouse found this out and now you're in the doghouse, that doesn't work. What works is accepting that you're in the doghouse, that you dirtied your home and you hurt somebody and you need to go out there for a while and think about what you did and think about what it means. And find a way to come back that involves compassion and empathy, not bargaining and demands.
So if I'm understanding correctly, your book focuses basically on a coming together, both people, and one person having to basically accept, I dirtied the house, I can't clean it up by myself, and I have to just wait on this other person to, I guess, allow me to be back in good graces, if that ever happens. Well,
it's interesting. It's funny how we phrase things, right? Because that's a great way, I think, to think about it that is maybe not useful, which is I'm going to wait. I'll let her be angry for a while. It's like, really? Like, that's your job to allow her to be angry? She'll be as angry as long as she's going to be angry. Mm-hmm. So, I think there is an equality issue here, which is, if you were at work and somebody stole from you, you wouldn't trust them for a very long time. You probably want to trust them. You probably want to fire them. You certainly wouldn't promote them. And if you ever saw them early at work one day with their hand in the safe, 3 years later, you'd be thinking, oh, they're stealing. So why would it be any different with you if you've cheated and your spouse no longer trusts you, that you think that this is going to be an easy thing to work out and heal, and we'll just move on and everything will be fine? It's going to be this is just what I want guys to know, like it or not. This isn't me saying this is how you have to do it. I just work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of couples and women who've been betrayed, and I can tell you what they want to heal their relationships and what they don't want.
Aside from just waiting and wishing and hoping, we've got a chapter that's dedicated on how not to make it worse. What can the cheating spouse do within themselves, aside from the anger and disappointment of the spouse, and at least work on themselves until the other spouse or until the spouse is ready to accept trying to mend?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head, Neil, which is that, it's the spouses. I will say if someone's been cheated on, your job right now, they'll say, well, do I need to forgive? Should I not forgive? Do I need to work on my... the most comforting thing to someone's been cheated on is simply to tell them your job is to be angry, and your job is to figure out whether or not you want to stay with this person. That's your job. And you don't have to worry about anything else except taking care of yourself. And to the person who's been doing the cheating, it's more about your job is absolutely without question to keep your word and don't say anything that you're not going to do, and don't do anything you're not going to say. So,
now, are you talking about? Are you talking about?
I'm not talking about sex.
Okay, anything across the board. Lying is off the table.
Couples, let me give you an example. I mean, I work with a cheating couple that were doing really, really well, and they were healing their relationship, and she was beginning to be rebuilt trust. Absolutely true story. It's in the book. And 6 months in, she asked him to take out the trash, and he said, "Of course, honey." And then, of course, at the end of the day, he'd forgotten. So she came home that night from work. Absolutely true story. She said, "Honey, you took out the trash, right?" And he said, "Yeah, of course I did." But then he ran out to take out the trash, and while she was washing her hands in the bathroom at the end of a long day, she saw her husband sneaking the trash can out to the curb, even though he had just told her he had already done it. And she walked out to the bathroom right before dinner. She said, "Honey, I just want you to know I love you dearly, and I'm really glad that we've lived together and loved each other, but this relationship is over." And he said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "If you can't tell me the truth about when you forgot to take out the trash, how would I ever know if you were going to tell me the truth about another woman?" Wow. And so every truth becomes, it's like hypervigilance. Every truth becomes, well, if you're lying about this, what these women are trying to do is regain trust. I have never met, or I've rarely met a spouse who has been blindsided by infidelity, a female spouse, who says to me, well, I'm ready to get out of this relationship. Mostly they come in and they are like, where did that truck come from? It hit me. I'm not sure which way it went. And am I on the ground or in a hospital? Like, these spouses are shocked and overwhelmed, and they're not necessarily certain they want to get out of the relationship. They're actually looking for reasons to stay in it. So if you act like someone who's responsible and truth-telling with integrity and own your stuff, over time it is likely your spouse will begin to see you again as a trustworthy, reliable, committed partner, and that can take a year or more.
The book is Out of the Doghouse, a step-by-step relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. Our guest is the author of this brand new book, Mr. Robert Weiss, expert in intimacy and infidelity issues in the digital age. Thanks for coming in today, Robert.
Thank you.
All right. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. You can listen in on SoundCloud and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.